And young girls should be careful when interacting with people they only know on social media. Welcome to Mother-Daughter Connections, the show dedicated to educating, encouraging, and equipping moms to build lasting, meaningful connections with their daughters. I'm your host and mother-daughter relationship personal trainer, Dr. Michelle Deering. My heart is to be of help to you. I believe that your relationship with your mom is the foundation for your future success, personally, parentally, and professionally. Now remember, even though I'm a licensed psychologist, I'm not your shrink on this show. I am, however, here to share my opinions and those of my guests. If you have concerns about your mental health, please seek services from a mental health provider in your local area. Now join me as we pause to consider today's topic. Has your daughter stopped talking to you the way she used to? Well, that could be for any number of reasons. Maybe something was said or not said, or maybe something was done or not done, or maybe you both just got your wires crossed. Whatever the reason, there are definite research-based principles that you can use to get your daughter talking to you again. And I've put those principles in my Get Your Daughter Talking Now online course. It's a self-paced, 3-module, step-by-step program that you can use to fix the lines of communication between you and your daughter, regardless of her age. Just go to www.getyourdaughtertalkingnow.com to start rebuilding your relationship today. And if you've already purchased the program, awesome. Just make sure that you share the link with your mom friends so that they can get in on the healing. The link again is www.getyourdaughtertalkingnow.com. Now let's hop into today's episode. Well, hi there and welcome. I am so excited that you're here with me today. You know, if you're a tween or teen daughter listening to this with your mom, awesome. If you're listening to it by yourself, awesome. Moms, if you're listening to this by yourself or with your tween or teen daughter, just know I really appreciate the both of you for being here. I love spending time with my daughters. One of them is actually, as we're recording, I'm scheduled to go pick her up from the train station. She's just popping into town. She can work remotely, so she's popping into town to work from home here at home, and I get to just love on her, give her a big squeeze and hug. So I really appreciate the time that I get to spend with my daughters. And it's kind of funny in our household, but there's social media. I have my iPhone, and there are so many times where I'll be on my phone and one of my daughters will be like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, I'm sending a text or I'm writing an email, and then I'll see them on their phone and I'm like, "What are you doing on your phone?" And they're like, "Oh, I'm just moving this thing around here." And I'm like, "You can do that?" And they're like, "Yeah, you can do it on yours." And then before I can even get the next word out of my mouth, they've grabbed the phone out of my hand and then they're doing all this fancy stuff. So whenever I hit a wall of not knowing what to do on social media, I usually go, "Hey, can anyone help me with this?" And so I just really appreciate the back and forth with them and their help and letting me more into their world of how they go about navigating social media. So today, I want to share with you 7 ways to manage your social media presence. And a lot of what I'll be sharing, this is stuff straight from my daughters. Okay, they're now in their early 20s, and as I said, they're more savvy than I am on social media. But full disclosure, before I get into everything, as parents, my husband, my BFF hubby, and I, we didn't get our daughters smartphones until just before they entered high school. All right, that might seem a little bit weird. Okay, I don't know what you all do in your household, but I'm just letting you know just a little background about what we did in our household, okay? We spent their elementary and middle school years acclimating them to the idea of what we called responsible technology use with their laptops and prepaid phones first. Because, as you all know, computers and technology is being used more and more in the classroom. And so we were just trying to get them acclimated to, this is a laptop. This is what you do with it. Let's see what it is the teachers are asking you to do. And this is a prepaid phone. It's not a cell phone like all of your other friends have. And this is why Daddy and I have decided to give you this phone first. All right. And then once they mastered their responsible use of technology and exhibited to us character traits, financial habits, and decision-making skills that we were comfortable with, then we purchased them a smartphone. The joke with them is, we didn't get smartphones till we were, in high school, and we didn't get what did they say? Social media apps until they were like juniors and seniors in high school. So that was our household, all right? And when they got to high school, we had more what I call ongoing collaborative conversations with them, with each of them, about what social media platforms they wanted to have and be on. And we kind of heard them out in terms of, what they were saying their friends had, what their own personal whys or why nots were for what it is that they wanted on their phones. But we always turned the conversation back to what they wanted, so that they would know that they had the power within themselves to choose what they wanted to do with this powerful tool of a smartphone and social media. So with that all said, okay, that's the full disclosure, all right? I disclose stuff to y'all anyway, but full disclosure, that's what we did in our household. So when I asked my daughters, Jasmine and Candace, what tips, what things should tween and teen daughters know, or what should moms know about how to help their daughters navigate their social media presence, I'm just going to tell you what Jasmine said first, okay? Because we were communicating via group text. They were both busy with work, but they took time out of their breaks during their work day to help me out here. So Jasmine wrote, the first thing is that you want to consider having a private profile account. So for you tween and teen daughters out there, I know that you know what that means. All right. And the reason for having a private profile account is so that you can better monitor who has access to your content and posted information. Because you want to, and these are Jasmine's words, you want to protect yourself from weird people on the internet. That's a quote from her. All right. Second thing that she said that you want to use to manage your presence on social media is that you want to think carefully. Actually, she just said think carefully. I added the other thinks. All right. But she said to think carefully about what you're putting out there into the internet. Think twice about posting photos or information regarding your physical location, your school name, your full name, etc. And also remember that not everything has to be a post. And then the third thing that Jasmine said was that you don't want to get too caught up in what she's calling social media drama. Try taking frequent breaks from social media and live more in the moment. So those are Jasmine's 3 points, all right? And then her older twin sister, Candace, chimed in right afterwards with tip number 4, which is be careful when interacting with strangers online. And I'm going to read to you because both of my daughters can write really well, but Candace wrote a little paragraph and couldn't memorize it all. So she wrote specifically, these days you can never be too sure who you're actually talking to online. And young girls should be careful when interacting with people they only know on social media, meaning that you don't know them in any other context. Don't give out personal information or share pictures with a stranger, even if they say it's okay. And this is her writing this. She says, I've read a lot of stories from adults, parentheses, who were teens once, close parentheses, who didn't know about things like grooming or exploitation. So I'm just going to pause here. When I saw the word grooming, my first thought was, what do you mean, grooming a dog? What is that? What? So I went to them and I said, what's grooming? And they explained that grooming is the following. It's a manipulative tactic that adults use online with young people who've not developed a sense of discernment, or their prefrontal cortex, remember, is not fully developed. It's years in the making, all right? That prefrontal cortex has to do with decision making. So it's a manipulative tactic that adults use online with young people whose prefrontal cortex isn't fully developed to make them feel comfortable at first so that they'll only trust that person. And then the adult will start asking for things after said trust has been built. It's really kind of this long play that, as Jasmine put, weird people out there who don't mean you well. It's a long play and it can happen really insidiously before you know it. So you really want to be careful about things like grooming or exploitation. And Candace went on to write, I would only follow and interact with people you actually know in real life and trust to some degree. If someone makes you uncomfortable, it's okay to block them, grab screenshots, and report. So Candace was saying, be careful. The fifth thing that Candace put forth is, and this fifth point being that you want to be aware that a lot of things on social media are exaggerated. And she went on to further write that people like to idealize their lives instead of showing reality, or they are over-exaggerating something for views, to get their views and their likes increased. And that can be dangerous for things like body image, and you can start to compare yourself to other people. So don't take these kinds of posts seriously. And I would really emphasize this part of what Candace wrote, and question how real this snapshot is of their life. The sixth thing that Candace wrote, she was kind of commenting on something that Jasmine said earlier about think carefully. Candace wrote, nothing is ever really, quote unquote, deleted from the internet. I know you've heard this. You may or may not have heard this, but I'm just going to state that for you. And I agree, as my BFF hubby is in the technology space and he knows about this stuff. Anything you post or share is getting saved somewhere. And if you don't have privacy control set up, anyone can see your content. I'm going to pause here for a second and say that, and add to this, in that, yeah, things are saved. And even if you have privacy controls, I don't know if you've ever seen the documentary on Google, the Google Sphere. At one point, I think it was on Netflix. And another point, I think it was on some other TV platform. But if you haven't watched it, I would really encourage you to watch it. Data points are out there. The dark web is out there. If folks are out there who want to get information and they want to get it, they will find a way. So just be careful, okay? And know that even when you click delete, it's still floating out there, whether it's in pixel form or something, it's still out there. So back to what Candace wrote. She says you want to be aware of what you're posting because once it's out there, it's hard to get rid of. And then the last thing that Candace wanted to share was that she would recommend that parents start talking to their children about the social media platforms that they're on. And it warmed my heart that Candace mentioned this because, again, as I said during the full disclosure, that's what we did. We engaged them in conversation. We did not come down unilaterally and say, boom, no can do. We engaged in conversation. And there's some platforms out there. Again, I'm not going to name names of different platforms because that could be a whole nother episode. But there are platforms out there where the information is not always being used the way it's saying it's being used. So you just want to make sure that you talk with your children and talk through things and share where each of you is coming from and have that conversation flowing. So, as a review, these 7 tips on how to navigate the social media presence that you have is 1, consider having a private profile account. 2, think carefully. 3, don't get caught up in social media drama. 4, be careful when interacting with strangers online. Be careful, right? Especially about that grooming thing. And then 5, be aware that a lot of things on social media are exaggerated. 6, know that nothing ever really gets deleted from the internet. And 7, parents, moms, and your significant others or spouses, really talk with your children about what platforms they are wanting to be on or what you're thinking they should or should not be on. All right? So that's all I got for you today. I want to put a big shout out there to my daughters, Candace and Jasmine. Thank you so much for helping mom out today with these tips. And if you're wondering why they are not on the podcast talking about this themselves, they've in their own individual journey have decided which things and which ways they want to be on platforms that are out there in social media, and podcasts are not one of them at this juncture in their life. So I'm respecting their decision. So kudos to them for living what they preach. So thank you, Candace and Jasmine. Appreciate you. Now, if you like this podcast, or if you've gotten anything out of it, or if you think there's a mom out there who would benefit from listening to, downloading episodes from, and or following this podcast, please, it's a free resource. Make sure that you click the 5 stars on the platform that you're listening to this podcast on. Click the 5 stars and write just a brief comment in the comment section. What that does is it helps the algorithms out there that are always changing, but it does help the algorithms inform more moms about this podcast. I can't tell you how many times moms have said to me via email, through comments on the platform, how they found this podcast because it popped up on their feed. So please click 5 stars, leave a quick review. I'd greatly appreciate it. We're cresting over 100,000 moms. I want to get to 1 million. We're in 35 plus countries. Want to make that more. So please spread the love, spread the encouragement, and leave a review. I'd greatly appreciate it. Until next time when we get together, remember, healthy mother-daughter relationships are possible. They just take one curative connection at a time. I'll see you next week. You've been listening to Mother-Daughter Connections with me, your host and mother-daughter relationship personal trainer, Dr. Michelle Deering. Thanks so much for joining me today. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Share this episode with a friend so they don't miss an episode. And download the resource in the show notes. Until next time, remember to pause to consider how you can connect intentionally so you can improve relationally with your daughter.